Chuck's Diecast Car and Model Reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at this car. This is a pretty neat model. This is a Jaguar XJ220 by Maisto. For those of you who've watched my other videos, you may notice that this one doesn't fit as well on my little turntable as most of my other models because this one is in 1/12 scale. So it's a biggie, and you know, it's a pretty decent model for it being a Maisto and also being, well, over 20 years old as well. I mean, that's when I first saw one of these models. There was a toy store that I used to visit in a mall near my work, so I'd go there on my lunch breaks and I would buy die-cast model cars, you know, whenever I got my paycheck. And that's probably the genesis of my die-cast model collecting hobby, actually. So this particular model I remember seeing for sale there, and I believe it was about 40 bucks. And I just couldn't bring myself to buy it back then, so I never did. And then I just got this one, probably, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago or so, off of eBay, and I think I probably paid less than $40 for this one. Of course, this one is used and does have a couple of issues there that I'll bring up, you know, when we go ahead and discuss the model. But let's go ahead and talk about the car first. Of course, the XJ220 was built in the early 90s to mid 90s. It was part of that big flurry of the first, I guess what you would call them, supercars back in in that era, you know, along with the Porsche 959, the Ferrari F40 was in there, the Bugatti EB110, and then slightly later came along the McLaren F1 also. These XJ220s were actually not an official project by Jaguar, at least at the beginning. What happened was a bunch of engineers for Jaguar got together after hours and decided to design their own little supercar. They ended up presenting the car to, you know, management or whatever, and they thought it was pretty neat. So they said, well, go ahead and make a mock-up of it, you know, and make it into a concept car, and we'll show it at you know, Geneva Car Show or Paris Car Show or London Car Show or wherever. And when it was shown, it got a huge reception. I mean, people went nuts over it. And I remember that, you know, back then, I thought it was just the neatest car, you know. It got such a reception that Jaguar decided, well, all right, we'll take deposits, and then, you know, we'll go ahead and put this car into production. So anyway, they started getting this vehicle ready for production, and they determined that, first of all, the V12 that they put in the concept car just wasn't going to work. So they replaced it with a twin turbocharged 3.5-liter V6, which is actually sort of a modified version of what was in the Rover, or I think it was the Rover 6R4 rally car. And it was twin turbocharged and had about 450 horsepower. They also took away the four-wheel drive for probably more weight than cost, but it may have added a lot of cost as well, but they took that out also. And then they took it out on the track and they got it up to 212 miles an hour. Wasn't quite to the 220 that the number on the car says, but it still made it the fastest car in the world. Until it was superseded by the McLaren F1, of course. Now, what happened here is when they switched over to the 6-cylinder twin turbo and took out the four-wheel drive, a lot of people who had put down their deposits tried to back out of the deal. Probably not so much for the fact that it didn't have a V12, but more because there was a recession going on and they lost money and they wanted to back out and not buy the car. But they still built a car. They didn't build as many as they had hoped. I think they built like 380 of them, and I think they were planning on building 450 of them. But it is still a very neat car, and it did have a lot of, pretty neat technological stuff in it as well, in terms of, what it was made of. I think it was made of aluminum honeycomb, which is a very aerospace material. Carbon fiber wasn't quite up to, people being brave enough to put it in a full monocoque chassis for a street car back then, until McLaren did a couple years later. So this was made of honeycomb, but it was still a relatively light and strong material. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the model itself here, okay? Now let's first of all take a look here at the wheels and the tires. You've got your classic, 90s disc type wheels, which I think are pretty neat. It has center locking wheels, and you can see in the center there the Jaguar face there, Jaguar logo in the center cap, or the center locking nut, I guess you call it. It even has a valve stem in there, so that's good. You can't actually see the brake rotors, which are, of course, are blocked by the wheel. But you can see that it does have Bridgestone tires, because they are actually branded tires there. They're Bridgestone Expedias, which I guess maybe not only can you drive one of these, you can also book flights and hotels using these tires as well, but they are Expedias. But anyway, a pretty decent detail on there. You can see in front of the wheel there the Jaguar XK220 badge, those are the only branding badges of the model itself on the car, just in front of the tires. And you can see the intake there with the whether it's a radiator, intercooler behind there, I'm not sure. Now, if you'll take a look at the, it's kind of, this is one of the issues with the model here. The paint is not awesome, okay? You can see underneath this trim there that there's a little bit of bubbling of paint. The paint, it has sort of a weird texture in it in a few places, although I was able to get rid of it, because I think what happened is one of the previous owners had actually waxed the model, and I think that may be part of the problem. I was able to just take some light abrasive and get rid of most of that strange texture. And who knows, maybe if I do that here as well, it'll get rid of that and it'll improve the appearance of the car paint job there. But taking a look here at the rest of the door there, I'm pretty sure that this is not a custom rear view mirror for a Jaguar XJ220. I'm pretty sure that this is some sort of mirror off a Ford, like a Ford Taurus or something, but so it just doesn't quite look as sleek as the rest of the car, I guess. So I'm pretty sure that comes off of another car. Taking a look at the front here, you can see the Jaguar badge in the grill. The grill is made of plastic. This is before the era of photo etch and all that sort of stuff, but it is an actual, see-through grill, so that's actually pretty good. The headlights don't open, which is unfortunate because they sort of rotate to expose the headlights, and that would have been neat to have. The turn signals there are sort of par for the course for a car model built back in this era. Taking a look here under the front trunk, I guess you could call it a trunk, but it's actually not. All it is basically a pass-through for the radiator air to come out of the car, you know, and go through these vents and presumably make your windshield really hot. But, so there's no storage space for you there. Actually, if you'll notice here, this is a right-hand drive XJ220. Taking a look at the rear of the car, again, you'll see detail is pretty decent here. Again, the slats in the back are cast plastic and it is see-through, and you can see the tail lights underneath the slats there. And again, I'm pretty sure that Jaguar did not pay to get custom taillights made. I think those are, again, off of another model of car. The exhausts are a little bit strange. They're white, they're not chrome, so I'm not sure if that is actually correct. I don't recall looking at the exhausts when I saw the XJ220s I have seen, so maybe I'll have to take a second look and see if it actually does have white exhaust, but I kind of have my doubts. You can see here as well that it has pretty large Venturi tunnels coming out of the bottom of the car for downforce, and that's kind of a neat look there. When we take a look underneath here, you'll see, and this is a hefty model, there's not much to see here. I mean, it has a full floor pan. You can see the wishbones at the front and rear. Even when you look underneath here, you don't see that they even put rotors in the wheels, so there are no rotors to be seen there. The screws are kind of rusty here, so you can tell that it's, well, it must be the previous owner had it in sort of a damp area. I live in Colorado, so there is no damp here, so that would not happen here. Okay, let's take a look at, of course, the power plant of this car here, okay? Again, it's a 3.5 liter V6 twin turbo. This little area is pretty tough to open, so bear with me for just a bit here. Or maybe I'm just opening it in the wrong place. Let's see. There we go. All right. Now, the nice thing about this model is notice that it does have telescoping struts here holding up the rear hatch, so you can see a little bit better there. But yeah, that's pretty neat there. Okay, the engine detail is pretty decent. You can see the cross brace. You can see the intake on the top with the Jaguar name, as well as the XJ220 on the valve covers, and in blue on either side of the engine, I believe those are the turbos there, and also, of course, there's some blue, I guess, fuel lines or something at the front of the engine there also, or oil lines, and there's a reservoir there in blue as well. I don't know if those colors are correct or anything, but again, you can see that detail in the engine, and as I said, it's not bad. Okay, but while I've got this here, you can also see the filler cap for the engine there, or for the fuel. So let's see if I can bring that into focus. There we go. And let's go ahead and take a look inside the passenger compartment here. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure it's a bit dusty, but you can see here the Jaguar sill plate You can see the seats are fairly well detailed, including you can see stitching on there. The seat belts are made of fabric, but the buckle itself is made of plastic, not metal, so it's just kind of black in color. Detail on the dash is pretty good. It's just a large sticker behind a plastic, clear plastic, so it's nice that they put that detail in there. You can see that it's a 3-pedal car because they didn't have paddle shifts in production cars until several years later. And so detail in there is pretty good. And one neat thing about the XK220 is here, look in the door there, you'll see that there are some gauges there too. So I think that's pretty neat. Why not make it a full wraparound dash and put some gauges on the door, right? So kind of nice little deep pockets there for storage, because I don't think this thing even has a glove box. And you can also see here that the brake lever is there on the side of the seat there too. So that's kind of interesting that it is outboard like that. We'll go ahead and take a look at the other side here so you can actually see the rest of the dash as well as the shifter. And you can also see that it has a fire extinguisher too, so very interesting there. Alright, so anyway, I think that is pretty much all that there is to see. The rear deck lid doesn't open. I don't even know if there's any storage in there for anything anyway. Pretty much everything on this model is pretty decent, except, as I mentioned, the issue with the paint. And like I said, hopefully I'll be able to get that sorted. But as it is, that is all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this video here, and if you did, please like and subscribe. Have a great day.